coaches, thanks for joining me for another Modern Soccer Coach Tactical Breakdown. Today we're going to talk about something that has probably transformed football training over the last 10 years, tactical periodization. What exactly is it? How can we implement it? And what have we learned about it over the last couple of years from guests on Modern Soccer Coach podcasts and webinars? That's what we're going to check out today. We've also got a free giveaway to help with tactical periodization planning later on in the video. But before we start, please give it a like, give it a subscribe. We're almost at 20,000 subscribers for the YouTube channel. That was a goal 12 months ago. We're almost there. If you haven't subscribed, please do it real quick and appreciate the support. Okay, here we go. Okay, tactical periodization is a football training methodology that was developed around 35 years ago by a genius, Vitor Frade, who was a sports science professor at Porto University in Portugal. Now, there's a number of coaches that have taken this methodology at the professional level and have had huge success with this. Jose Mourinho, Andre Villas-Boas, Carlos Carvajal, Brendan Rodgers, a number of coaches in the modern game. Also a lot of coaches that have taken different facets from it and put it together and molded it into a hybrid of something else. We won't go into the detail of everything about tactical periodization, but we're going to look at some concepts that potentially you could use right away that we can take and learn and improve our teams and our environments. So to understand what tactical periodization is, one of the best definitions of it came in an interview I did a couple of years ago with UEFA Pro licensed coach and tactical periodization student himself, Federico Moret. Now, Federico talks about how the game has developed and moved and how technology and science and different specializations have come into the game and how that has shaped this methodology and helped guide coaches to deal with a game that has become so complex over the last 15 years. Here we go.
I think we have to look back and look at the history and look at how things developed. And that's how usually you understand the phenomenon. So we looked at sports in general as a game, as something fun. Then it started growing into a business, into something more competitive, and now it is complete business. So what people did was we'll bring specialists, as they call it, from this different areas. So we'll bring a psychologist, we'll bring a strength and conditioning coach, and then we'll put them all together and it'll work for sure. And we know that's not how it worked. And that is what I feel when I look at NFL documentaries and things from way back. That is what you feel. Okay, now it's the strength and conditioning coach time. Now is the tactical. Now is the coordinator, defensive coordinator. So it was a lot of it was split up. So I can't see it in that way. I can't see it in a way where you do analytic work or you try to improve the physical condition of a player, when we know in the game of football and in the majority of sports, your physical performance is linked to your decision making. So you only sprint because you have to sprint. You only make a certain movement because that makes sense in your head at that moment to go in between the lines or to move into a blind side, So we have to make sure that when we coach that and whatever methodology you want to use, when you do that, the physical, the mental, the tactical, the technical, they have to be all working with each other.
And I think that's a key in defining what tactical periodization is. There is no separation between the physical, the mental, the tactical, the technical. They are all together, but everything is underpinned by the tactical. However, one thing that I've picked up in a couple of interviews that I've done with coaches that have studied this at a high level is that the interaction between the physical and the tactical and the mental and the tactical are very, very, very important. Here is an example of how the mental has to be taken into consideration when you're planning the tactical by Manuel Fonseca, again, another student of Vitor Frade who studied this here and came on a webinar and explained how it all comes together.
So when I say we recover for the next game, it's recover for the maximum time on the year, because I don't want injuries. I want the players fresh and always ready psychologically and physically for the game. So this principle organize the weekly pattern, looking to be fresh to the next game and recover from the last one. So, by variating the dominant physical component day after day, the players will be fit, will be fresh, and the team will be tactically ready for the game. That's why we have a recovering day, acquisition day, pre-match day, right? For example, there are a few factors that we need to know before saying that in a Sunday weekend, the players are ready for a collective training session on the Wednesday. So first of all, we need to understand if all my players are recovering. And when I say recover, it's not only physically, but psychologically also. So much of the time, we don't think about that. But let's put this on the table. So I lose a game and I failed one penalty. The psychological stress will be very higher than my teammate. So maybe the time I will need, it will be longer than my other teammate. So I need to put this preoccupation on my week when I prepare the exercises, when I prepare the time, and when I prepare this acquisition I was talking about. So what I was saying about Wednesday. So I need to understand the recover that they are, the team are, because the players have, some players has played less with less pauses, other players has played more also, and much of that we need to understand the relations between them, because that's also a factor of stress, right? That's why on this day we put more small-sided games, because their relations are lower than the day of Thursday, right? So the stress will be very high on Wednesday, and if the players are not all recovered, it could be a problem, okay? But we need to think all the time when we are planning that we don't want the injuries. So the best approach is to do something in between muscular tension exercise in that session that would allow the team to be ready for the next game. Talking now about the complex progression, and this example, it's very good. Which one is more complex? Left one or right one? I will give you the answer. In my opinion, both are complex, but in the different ways. Because if I start with the left one, we need to think faster, to adapt faster. If I start for the right one and then change for the left one, the adaptation will be different, because they start with the bigger space and then I close the space. This is a complex progression, right? And we need to think about it. So, talking a little bit about this principle, the first thing I want to say to you that is not a linear principle, because we need also to think football is everything but non-linear.
So when you're planning the tactical around the physical and the mental and the tactical, it can become quite complex. That is why putting it together in a plan can help you and your staff communicate with one another. If you have an S&C coach, it's brilliant to get them looped in, especially when you have a schedule that has multiple games in a week. College, high school, club today, you're probably dealing with that there. Here is a little insight from a recent interview I did with APFA with Chris Fox, head coach at Moorhead State University. This was his plan for the week and how he tried to work alongside the college schedule with tactical periodization, but you can also see the mental aspect of that as well. Here it is.
And we talk about like in-season periodization at the college level. It's tough. It's for us, we take off on Monday, and then we'll train Tuesday, Wednesday, play games Thursday, train Friday, train Saturday, game Sunday, and that's the bulk of our season. And so there isn't very much that you can do. I included some of like the readiness scores and the demand of these sessions. You're talking Tuesdays, the day that you can potentially do the most for them from a physical aspect. But then a lot of times coming off the weekend, coming off an off day, mentally they may not be as checked in as they need to be. So durations are pretty low. But I just thought it was an important slide to share because, you know, it's difficult at our level. And then I put the bottom there, focus team. So for us, like we try to focus on ourselves every single day. I would say on Tuesdays, the primary focus is us. Wednesday, primary focus is the opponent, a little bit on us, obviously game Thursday. Friday, maybe we're working on some fixes, some things that we need to improve. Saturday, we're back into the opponent and then back on the game. And that's kind of how the season goes for us from August through to November.
So if you're a coach and you're looking at planning your training week, here is a document that you can download for free on the link below on the Modern Soccer Coach website for absolutely free. It's something that you can maybe incorporate your tactical with your technical and your physical, and looking at how the whole environment must be planned throughout the week. Again, you can modify this and change this depending on conversations with your staff or conversation with your S&C coach if you're fortunate enough to have one. This is not a full guide to tactical periodization. I have to say that. Tactical periodization, to learn the principles and the fundamentals about tactical periodization, you've got to go and study it at Vitor Frad's course in Portugal. So this is not something that I'm saying this is a tactical periodization document. This is something that I think can help you generate conversations with your staff and maybe help guide some training principles throughout the whole week with your game model and your analysis and your science. On the link below, and you can get your free copy. So we've seen about the physical and we've seen about the tactical. The last clip I want to show you is a little bit more about the technical in terms of periodization and management and how to look at that throughout the whole course of a season. We were joined over lockdown by academy coach at Atlanta United, Adine Osman Basic, who I'm sure you're well familiar with. If you haven't, you need to check out his work. He is the current assistant coach, Houston Dynamo and MLS. He came on and talked about pressing. There's a link to the presentation below if you want to check it out. But I want to show you one little clip that he talked about the week and how they planned the week at Atlanta United Academy with director Tony Annan, and how they broke up different principles for the weeks. And the last thing he talks about is almost a difference maker in how you take a model that everyone might have access to and how you maximize that and take the theory from practice and make it special with your environment and with your team.
And this is kind of what we've built at the Academy under Tony Annan and Matt Lowry, for example, our director manager, is a general cycle, 8-day block. This is just the first third of a cycle. So this is 2 weeks, then you would have 2 weeks on midfield third principles, and then another 2 weeks on attacking third, and just touching on the different principles in our game model. But for Red Bull Salzburg, for example, the principles that we went over and the details of those principles, you could fit those types of things into here as well. If you're a type of coach who really admires them and you analyze them like crazy and you find all the information, you contact their coaches, you discuss with them, you learn the kind of insider information, things that might not be shared to the public. These are types of things that with enough analysis and enough, trying to contact these coaches are usually open up enough and share details and things like that. Most of them, the ones who are not trying to hide anything, but there's nothing really to hide, but you are able to find these principles and build your own game model. Just as we talked about before, you start with the game, you build it into your own model through the different phases. Then you have the same actions as everyone else. And then you create your specific principles or guidelines for these actions. And then you have the position, moment, direction, speed, same as everyone else. You train the same as everyone else. You just have to have that detailed understanding through analysis, and the know-how to deliver the trainings as well. And the exercises, which you can learn on coaching courses. But we see here the match, then the next day is usually off for us. Flex sessions usually at the will of the coach, which is usually touching on something maybe we were really bad at in the match, just to kind of clean it up. And then we spend our loading days on the principal session, then our first tapering day on a principal session, and then the last day is kind of a game model session. And then again, you have the match, and then the same thing next week. And then you don't see here, but there would be midfield and then attacking, and that would complete one cycle, and you'd go again. So final thoughts, last slide. We all play and train the same game. That's a given. That's the only secret in football, is that we're all playing the same thing. We are all taught the similar method of modeling the game by our FA, the phases, the direction of the game, the structures, things like that. That's how you model your game. This is what we do at our academy at Atlanta United. This is what many academies do, many teams around the world do. We all perform the same actions with the same intentions. Everyone's trying to win the ball, intercept the ball, cover passing options, or cover teammates. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned before, the difference in quality is from the detailed understanding of the concept and the know-how of making the idea actionable on the field, and which is through your, and you do that successfully in matches through your training and how you coach. So how capable are you of understanding the concept and then transferring it to your players through the exercises and your coaching points and what you're saying on and off the field? So detailed analysis of the game and the trainings, and then reflection on the game and trainings is what develops that detailed understanding of the concepts and helps improve your know-how over a long period of time.
So there you have it, coaches. Just some ideas and concepts and takeaways from some of the guests we've had and we've been fortunate to talk to on the Modern Soccer Coach podcast and webinars. If you haven't checked out the interviews and the podcasts, they are available on modernsoccercoach.com below. Again, this is not a how-to guide of tactical periodization. This is just some takeaways that maybe you might want to look at and modify, and talk to your staff and your coaches around prioritizing and planning the week, and being aware of how the tactical and the technical and the mental and the physical all interact, all overlap, and how we can get more information around that and get better processes around that and make our teams and our environments better. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the videos and you want to watch the full interviews, I'll put a link below. If you would like a copy of the document that I showed you, and maybe you can edit it and maybe you can look at your own periodization, you can get it on the link below for free. When you're at modernsoccercoach.com, please check out the ebooks, the webinars, and the hard copy books as well. Thanks so much for the support. I will see you next week. Goodbye.